All right. All right, what do we got here? Our favorite neoliberal baby man here, Ezra Klein, talking to Sarah McBride on why the left lost on trans rights. Huh? What do you mean? What do you mean by the left lost on trans rights? I'm already inherently inclined to think, because I've heard some things about this, I don't know, podcast, this interview, and I'm probably going to be very upset. Yeah, Sarah McBride, who's, I don't know, feckless and weak. Let's just say, yeah, feckless and weak in terms of putting up much of a resistance to Republicans whatsoever. I believe she's also, the first elected trans representative in Congress, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get a great lesson here in terms of how effective feckless neoliberalism is in terms of fighting for the current, I don't know, main civil rights issue of the time. So again, we all know why fucking Republicans go after trans rights as hard as they do. It's, the current sort of vestige in terms of civil rights that is being fought for, broadly speaking, because trans people are starting to see a lot more sort of broad open representation in fucking media, and Republicans hate that because conservatives, hate you. They hate humanity, quite literally speaking. And also, they want to distract from the fact that their policies suck and nobody likes anything the Republicans do. So, let's see how the cowards think that they can do better at fighting for trans rights. Let's see.
Perfectly clear about what he intended. So Donald Trump, in his inauguration speech, was perfectly clear about what he intended to do.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Starting the day of that speech, Trump launched an all-out effort to roll back trans rights, using every power the federal government had, and some that it may not have.
President Trump has signed an executive order which declares the U.S. government will no longer recognize the concept of gender identity.
President Trump directing the Secretary of Education to create a plan.
Okay, do we need to also talk about why that's fucking stupid, by the way, the concept of gender identity? I guess he did it! He abolished gender! Excellent work, Mr. President! That means also, male and female gender presentations also doesn't fucking count anymore, you fucking moron. Whatever.
Plan to cut funding for schools that teach what he calls gender ideology.
This afternoon, President Trump makes a move to ban transgender athletes from competing in women's sports.
Ban on gender-affirming care for transgender kids.
A ban on gender-affirming care for transgender inmates in federal prisons.
Ban on transgender troops serving in the military. These executive orders, many of them have not actually gone into effect yet. But when I look across the country, we're already hearing the stories of impact.
It's complete dehumanization of transgender people. It's about privacy and dignity for me to be able to change my passport to male.
It's going to come along with having to out myself.
Oh, hey, it's Hunter Schafer. Hey, Trump, I thought you liked attractive women. Oh, what happened? You have a problem with Hunter Schafer or Samantha Lux? What happened? Because that clearly looks like a man. Do you think this looks like a man to you, Trump?
To Border Patrol agents.
We are begging to be allowed to continue our service, and you're just going to wash us away.
A lot of the things Trump is doing this term have put him on the wrong side of public opinion. But not this. In a recent poll where Trump's approval rating was around 40%, 52% of Americans approved of how he's handling trans issues. And if you look more deeply in polling on trans rights, the public has swung right on virtually every policy you can poll. Banning trans medical care for minors, that's a majority issue now. A few years ago, it wasn't. Trump didn't just win the election. He and the movement and ideology behind him have been winning the argument.
No, they have not been winning the argument. That is full of shit. They have to lie consistently. And this is how I know that it's going to be fucking stupid. We have to keep retreating to the Republican position on trans rights because they are the ones who are actually correct in terms of the argument. No, none of these motherfuckers are correct in the fucking argument. What are you talking about? No, the fucking Democrats are retreating and moving further to the right in terms of trans rights. That is the fucking problem. They are opening up an avenue that the Republicans can exploit. Again, in terms of the most important issues of the time, Americans have consistently polled and said that trans rights is one of the least concerning issues that they've generally speaking had. Most Americans don't really give much of a fuck at all about this. It's just that Republicans are trying to use trans people as a scapegoat in order to have other people pay attention to them instead of their bad economic policies. And liberals, neoliberals aren't actually fucking liberals. Neoliberals are buying that shit hook, line, and sinker because they're also conservative themselves.
Sarah McBride is a freshman congresswoman from Delaware, where she was formerly a state senator. She is the first openly trans member of Congress, and her view is that the trans rights movement, and the left more broadly, has to grapple with why their strategy failed, how they lost not only power, but hearts and minds.
We have to grapple with the
Yeah, dude, because the left have so much significant influence and power within the annals of Congress, dude. Yeah, totally.
reality of where people are beyond this room or this city or my state. Meeting people where they are is not selling out. It's what this work is.
I was struck talking to McBride how much she was offering a theory that goes far beyond trans rights. What she's offering is a counter to the dominant political style that emerged as algorithmic social media collided with politics. A style that is more about policing and pushing those who agree with you than it is about persuading those who don't.
Dude, if we're focusing on people who are fucking policing and being more fucking morally puritanical, this is gonna be like the similar fucking 3 IQ troglodyte shit that Ezra Klein is trying to fucking goddamn push for the Abunda agenda. Abunda agenda. This is the exact same fucking argument that this motherfucker says. Nonsense.
Sarah McBride, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to begin with some polling. So Pew asked the same set of questions in 2022 and 2025. And what it found was this collapse in alcohol persuasion. So they polled the popularity of protecting trans people from discrimination in jobs, housing, public spaces. That had lost 8 points in those 3 years. Requiring health insurance companies to cover gender transition lost 5 points. Requiring trans people to use bathrooms that match their biological sex gained 8 points. When you hear those results, what to you happened there?
Question. Polling on transgender issues. I'm curious. Complex views. Most favor protecting trans people from discrimination, even as a growing share say gender is determined by sex at birth, which is stupid. Like biological determinism. This is just a propagandistic line, but people still say protecting trans people from discrimination. They still are in favor of that. Okay, cool. Lovely. Young adults, Democrats more likely say hasn't gone far enough accepting people, so obviously Democrats and younger people are not cringe on this issue. Views of policies. Okay, so broadly speaking, in the general polling, most favor protecting trans people from discrimination. Okay, sure. Yeah, transgender issues are a strength on Trump. New poll finds. Again, the problem is that like they're just like it's a bunch of people fucking retreating from this issue. But what? Polls on how about transgender care? I'm curious. Think What's this? Why are we focusing on transgender issues as the main problem here, Ezra? This is from Alabama. Poll. Nearly half of Americans think politicians should not focus on all this. I mean, this is independent. This is an independent sort of thing. So I'm just like, I made the assumption based off of seeing the Alabama Reflector, but yeah, nearly half of Americans think politicians should not focus on transgender issues. It's almost as if there's bigger fucking problems, and this weird fixation on trans people is fucking irrelevant. The majority of Americans support the right for transgender adults to access, gender-affirming care, 59%. So, however, fewer Americans, 43%, support the right of trans youth to seek such care. Again, the problem is that there's a complete fucking propaganda machine that stupid dumbasses like Sarah McBride are, falling for. Because again, idiot, stupid, feckless, pathetic, weak neoliberals. In fact, 55% oppose laws that would restrict gender-affirming care for minors, including 41% of Republicans and 57% of independents. That's a little interesting. That's actually a pretty high amount of fucking Republicans who have said that they oppose the restriction of gender-affirming care. And it's mostly independents. And obviously Democrats also oppose this as well. Fascinating.
By every objective metric, support for trans rights is worse now than it was 6 or 7 years ago. And that's not isolated to just trans issues. I think if you look across issues of gender right now, you have seen a regression, right? Marriage equality support is actually lower now than it was a couple of years ago. In a recent poll, we also see a regression around support for whether women should have the same opportunities as men compared to 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so there's a larger regression from a gender perspective that I think is impacting this regression on trans rights. But
like I said before, there's a very specific reason why this is the case. The reason for this is, again, because your party has been retreating from those issues and allowing the right to say whatever the fuck they want about those issues. That is the fucking problem. It's the same thing with immigration. Quite literally, the Democrats decided to retreat and implement a lot of the Republicans' policies in terms of immigration. And whoa, guess what? Crazy. Polling on fucking immigration has gotten worse in terms of immigration rights. Crazy. Yeah, they've been not standing on, they have not been standing on business. It doesn't matter. Yeah, they're trying to go after Christian nationalist fucking votes, and whoa, it didn't fucking work at all, because of course it did not. Stupid.
I think it has been more acute, more significant in the trans rights space. I think, just candidly, I think we lost the art of persuasion. We lost the art of change making over the last couple of years. We're not in this position because of trans people. There was a very clear, well-coordinated, well-funded effort to demonize trans people, to stake out positions on fertile ground for anti-trans politics and have those be the battlegrounds rather than some of the areas where there's more public support.
Well, at least
we're not in this position because of the movement or the community, but clearly what we've been doing over the last several years has not been working to stave it off or continue the progress that we were making 8, 9, 10 years ago. And I think a lot of it can be traced to a false sense of security that I think the LGBTQ movement and the progressive movement writ large began to feel in sort of the post-marriage world. I think there was a sense of cultural momentum that was sort of this unending cresting wave. I think there was this sense of sort of a cultural victory that lulled us into a false sense of security, and I think in many ways shut down needed conversations. And I think,
Okay, well, like, I'm curious. What do we mean? Like, what needed conversation? Again, that's not the reason why. People have always been constantly pushing for more and more rights. The problem is, again, the main party apparatus is just like retreated from overall civil rights, broadly speaking, because again, Joe Biden's kind of a racist and a homophobe.
Support that we saw for trans rights in 2016, 2017, it was sort of a mirage of support in some ways, because I think there was, in the post-marriage world, there was a transfer of support from the LGB to the T. I think for two reasons. One, I think people said, well, the T is part of the acronym, so I support gay people, so I'll support trans people. It's all the same movement. But two, I think in those early days after marriage, a lot of people regretted having been wrong on marriage in the 90s and in the 2000s. And they went, I didn't understand what it meant to be gay, and therefore I didn't support marriage. And I regret not supporting something because I didn't understand it. So I'm going to, without understanding, support trans rights because I don't want to make that same mistake again. And I think that resulted in a lot.
What? So she's trying to say that people just inherently supported trans rights because they felt bad that they didn't support gay people in the past? I don't think that's how that works exactly, but okay, sure.
A lot of us, a lot of our movement, stopping the conversation and ceasing doing the hard work of opening hearts and changing minds and telling stories that over 20 years had shifted and deepened understanding on gay identities that allowed for marriage equality to be built on solid ground. And I think that allowed for the misinformation, the disinformation, that well-coordinated, well-funded campaign to really take advantage of that lack of understanding. And the support on trans rights was sort of a house built on sand.
I want to connect two things you said there, because I hadn't thought about this exactly before. So you made this point that there's been a generalized gender regression, which is true. And you also made this point that people had this metaphor in their minds that I was wrong about gay marriage. I didn't understand that experience. So maybe I'm wrong here too. But that one thing maybe that's different here is there's a set of narrow policies here, like non-discrimination, and then a broader cultural effort, right? Everybody should put their pronouns in their bio or say them before they begin speaking at a meeting. It was more about destabilizing the gender binary. And there people had a much stronger view. Like, I do know what it means. I've been a man all my life. I've been a woman all my life. How dare you tell me how I have to talk about myself or refer to myself? And that made the metaphor break. Because if the gay marriage fight was about what other people do, there was a dimension of this. It was about what you do and how you should see yourself or your kids or your society.
I think that's an accurate reflection of sort of the overplaying.
Well, yeah, again, the problem is that people like Sarah McBride are fucking complete spineless cowards. I want to listen again to what the question was there by Ezra.
People had this metaphor in their minds that I was wrong about gay marriage. I didn't understand that experience. So maybe I'm wrong here too. But that one thing maybe that's different here is there's a set of narrow policies here, like non-discrimination, and then a broader cultural effort, right? Everybody should put their pronouns in their bio or say them before they begin speaking at a meeting. It was more about destabilizing the gender binary. And there people had a much stronger view. Like, I do know what it means. I've been a man all my life. I've been a woman all my life. How dare you tell me how I have to talk about myself or refer to myself? And that made the metaphor.
Oh, this is like the fucking birthing person type fucking bullshit. That's what it is. Like, oh yeah, this is fucking stupid bullshit. No, that's complete fucking nonsense. Let's be fucking honest here. No, that's not the fucking reason why. Like, no one gives a fuck about that birthing person fucking language and shit. Because again, that's all like what? Like, yeah, man, I've always known I've been like a woman all my whole life. It's like, okay, yeah, no one really has a contention with that. If you talk with like anyone who's trans or who's like an advocate for fucking trans people, no one's really had like much of a contention or really a problem with that whatsoever. They don't give a fuck about any of that. It's just like, it's more so the position in the fight is all about, well, you know, going ahead and pushing for more rights and emancipation and like liberation for a, well, embattled minority community. It's not about like people saying birthing person or whatever the fuck, or like the optics of that fucking bullshit. It's nonsense. It's just that's stuff that conservatives used in order to gin up a fucking idiot campaign over. So okay, cool, whatever.
For break. Because if a gay marriage fight was about what other people do, there's a dimension of this. It was about what you do and how you should see yourself or your kids or your society.
I think that that's an accurate reflection of sort of the overplaying of the hand in some ways, that we, as a sort of coalition, went to trans 201, trans 301, when people were still at a very much trans 101 stage one. And then two, I think there were requests that people perceived as sort of cultural aggression, which then allowed the right to say, we're punishing trans people because of their actions rather than we're going after innocent bystanders. And I think...
So they're trying to... Okay, so it's the same shit Blair White says. It's all because of the activists. It's all because of the activists. Yeah, sure, dude. Totally. Well, yeah, again, whoa, you know, Ezra Klein is a fucking goddamn, like, stupid reactionary. Like, take a look at the fucking abundance agenda, okay? He doesn't want to fundamentally challenge power. He doesn't give a fuck about fundamentally challenging power. He wants to, you know, basically bend power to the will of neoliberalism. Hey, it's fucking stupid shit.
Some of the sort of cultural mores and norms that started to develop around inclusion of trans people were probably premature for a lot of people. We became absolutist, not just on trans rights. I think across the sort of progressive movement, we became absolutist. And we forgot that in a democracy...
Absolutist in what way exactly? Like, who was a fucking Again, I always ask people for the evidence that there are, like, absolutists. There's always someone who are people within a broader movement who are going to be, like, ideological fucking, like, Puritan, right? There's always going to be, like, one or two people in a movement. That's always gonna fucking happen. Like, duh. But who's we? Like, what? Who's the we in this particular instance? How many people? Do you have any polling on that? Who are, like, transgender absolutists or some shit? It's nonsense.
You have to, one, grapple with where the public authentically is and actually engage with it. And I think, you know, we and part of this is fostered by social media. We sort of decided that we now have to say and fight for and push for every single perfect policy and cultural norm right now, regardless of whether the public is ready. And I think it misunderstands the role that politicians and, frankly, social movements have in maintaining proximity to public opinion, of walking people to a place. We should be ahead of public opinion, but we have to be within arm's reach. If we get too far out ahead, we lose our grip on public opinion and we can no longer bring it with us. And I think a lot of the conversations around sports...
Those darned transgender activists going too far yet again. Again, this is some fucking pick-me Blair White shit. Purely pick-me Blair White shit.
And also some of the sort of cultural changes that we saw in expected workplace behavior, etc., was the byproduct of maybe just getting too far out ahead and not actually engaging in the art of social change making.
The position for more maximalist demands is one that we need to be in a hurry. Trans people are dying now, suffering now, and there isn't time for decades of political organizing here. And also that maybe it works, right? Or maybe there's a reason to believe it works. So even in more of those spaces...
Wait, what do you mean by there isn't time of political fucking... Bro, who are the... Okay. Ezra, I know you probably don't know this. You want to know who two of the main fucking activists who pushed for gay rights during the Stonewall riots were? And Stonewall happened 40 years ago. Her name is Marsha P. Johnson. Right? I don't know how to fucking spell her name. Marsha P. Johnson. American gay liberation activist and self-identified drag queen known as an outspoken advocate for gay rights. Oh, it was in 1969. Never mind. It was about 6 years ago. She was one of the prominent figures in the Stonewall Uprising of 1969. Johnson was a member of the Gay Liberation Front and co-founded the radical activist group Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, or STAR, alongside close friend Sylvia Rivera, who is also transgender. She's a Latina. So that's cool. Popular in New York's gay community. She was also active in the city's art stream, modeling for Andy Warhol, and appearing on stage with a drag performance troupe, Hot Peaches. Very, very cool. So, two of the most prominent fucking activists during Stonewall were transgender, pushing for gay rights. Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it?
How do you describe how this sort of more maximalist approach in culture evolved and why?
Well, first off, I think you're right. It is understandable. I mean, this is a scary moment. I'm scared as a trans person. I'm scared. And I recognize that when the house is on fire, when there are attacks that are dangerous, very dangerous, that it can feel like we need to scream and we need to sound the alarm and we need everyone to be doing exactly that. I get that instinct. I understand it. I understand that people would say, if you give a little bit here, they'll take a mile. We're not negotiating with the other side, though. In this moment, we have to negotiate with public opinion. And we shouldn't treat the public like they're Republican politicians. And when you recognize that distinction, I think it allows for a pragmatic approach that has the best, in my mind, the best possible chance of shifting public opinion as quickly as possible. It would be one thing.
Yeah, dude, pragmatism is going to be the main thing here that's going to shift public opinion on trans issues. Sure, man, totally. Guys, if we do like some hyper-technical, technical policy here, no, dumbass. The problem is that people are, whoa, crazy. People are fucking poor and are more interested in focusing on economic issues instead of fucking social issues at the fucking moment. Like, quite literally. Yeah, like, fucking gay activist organizations have to organize to get public opinion to agree with them. That's how it fucking works. That's how it's always fucking worked. People didn't fucking agree with Marsha P. Johnson because she decided to sit with public opinion and random fucking people and just talk with them very kindly and very nicely. No, she fucking participated in revolutionary action and made fucking public opinion agree with their side. Stupid. She's not wrong that Republicans aren't the public opinion, but the public isn't so far gone. The far gone ones are Republicans who are in power. Exactly. The main factor here are the Republicans, and we're just going to inherently capitulate them. Like I've been saying earlier, and I feel like there's a point that I'm going to constantly fucking reiterate, the fucking Democrats started retreating on these civil rights issues and started to not really give a fuck about them because they felt like they won on them. So they stopped pushing further and further for more rights. That's the main issue. Now, I've touted about the fucking Respect for Fucking Marriage Act. Obviously, it's a fine fucking bill, right? It's a fine act that got signed into law, which codified Obergefell v. Hodges and Loving v. Virginia, right? Which is interracial marriage and gay marriage. Those have been federally codified. But again, the purpose of those bills being in existence is to mostly act as a stopgap for the fucking Republicans who are trying to, well, go after those particular things in particular. And again, in terms of like more gay, queer sort of like liberation and, you know, acts and stuff like that, the Democrats don't really fucking push for any of that stuff at all. It's all like neoliberal, what is most effective, like consultant effective polling positions is what they generally speaking focus more and more on. But sure, man. Oh, 1000%. Yeah, like Christians are extreme fucking radicals. And again, the only reason why they get to that fucking point, Boy Meets Mini, is because of the economy, fucking stupid. They're that radicalized because of a lot of the failings of their fucking communities, because the economy is fucking dog shit. If you want this to no longer be an issue, in order to be able to sort of like talk to people more so, you need to be able to take care of their fucking economic issues. Now, people will say that, Daho, this seems very, very class reductionist. And no, it's not. The reason why, for example, and I'm using this as a model, why do the Yemenis have no fucking, civil rights fucking movement? Have no fucking civil liberties movements? Because they're one of the poorest fucking goddamn countries on the planet. Well, you think like one of the poorest countries on the planet are going to hyper-fixate on fucking civil rights issues? No the fuck they're not. They're more busy trying to figure out how to survive and goddamn put food on the table in order to survive. Crazy.
If screaming about how dangerous this is right now had the effect of stopping these attacks. But it won't.
You call it a sort of abandonment of persuasion, became true across a variety of issues for progressives, also for people on the right. And sometimes I wonder how much that reflected the movement of politics to these very unusually designed platforms of speech, where what you do really is not talk to people you disagree with. It's talk about people you disagree with, to people you agree with, and then see whether or not they agree with what you said. And there's a way in which I think that breeds very different habits in people who do it.
I think that that's absolutely right. I mean, again, we're not in this place because of our community or our movement, but clearly we aren't in this space because we weren't shaming people enough, because we weren't canceling people enough, because we weren't yelling at people enough, because we weren't denouncing anti-trans positions enough.
Yeah, man.
I think the dynamic with social media is that...
Oh boy, it's because of fucking cancel culture. It's like 0.1% of like Twitter fucking lefties who are like really stupid and fucking annoying are the main problem with fucking trans people losing rights across the... Yeah, it's stupid.
The most outrageous, the most extreme, the most condemnatory content is what gets amplified the most, it's what gets liked and retweeted the most, and people mistake getting likes and retweets as a sign of effectiveness. And those are two fundamentally different things. And
I mean, she's right for probably some people, but let's be honest here. Like, hardly any people fucking agree with that position. It's complete fucking nonsense, dude.
I think that whether it's subconscious or even conscious rewarding of unproductive conversations has completely undermined the capacity for us as individuals or politically for us to have conversations that persuade, that open people's hearts and minds, that meet them where they are. And I think the other dynamic that we have with social media is that there's sort of two kinds of people on social media. The vast majority of people are doom scrollers. They just go on and they scroll their social media. 20% maybe are doom posters. 10% on the far right, 10% on the far left. The people who are so strident and angry that they're compelled to post, and that content gets elevated. But what that has resulted in for the 80% who are just doom scrollers is this false perception of reality. Take a person, let's say they're center left, and it gives them a false perception of everyone on the left believes this, and it pulls them that way. And then it gives them a false perception that everyone on the right believes the most extreme version of the right. And it creates this false binary extreme perception of availability bias, because all of the content we're seeing is reflected.
Okay, nobody fucking thinks like this, right? Like, broadly speaking, like, the only people who generally probably think the only way that Sarah McBride is describing here are people who are terminally online, don't go outside, don't touch grass, and are too nervous to fucking order a pizza on the phone or some shit. Like, quite literally. And this also applies to, like, schizos on the far right as well, okay? Yeah, like, again, like you're saying, Boy Meets Mini, yeah, no one gives a fuck about conversation. They want change. People want change. It's not about conversations. There's been enough of those, okay? The problem is that there are people in power who want to make things materially fucking worse for everybody else. And that's what they're more focused on. So it's very easy to, again, distract and, guess what? Jingle some fucking goddamn keys in front of them in order to distract them from the fact that their material conditions are getting constantly worse. And so, guess what? Trans people are that current key, are the current keys that are fucking being jingled in front of, like, dumbass fucking lumpen proletariat Republicans.
Of just the 20%. And it's warped our perception of reality. It's warped our perception of who people are and where the public is. One of the best things about being an elected official is that I have to break out of that social media echo chamber, that social media extreme world, and interact with everyday people. And you see, yeah, there are real disagreements, but that 80% of the doom scrollers, or the people who aren't even on social media, are actually in a place where we can have a conversation with them.
When I ask this question, I don't just mean on trans issues, but you represent Delaware, which is a blue state, not Massachusetts blue. If you took your sense of what Democrats want or what the country wants from your experiences on social media versus your sense from traveling around your state, how would they differ?
I think they would differ in two ways. One, they would differ in the issues that we would focus on. Right? What you hear on social media is a preoccupation with sort of the most inflamed culture war issues that you almost never hear when you're out talking to voters in any part of the state. What you hear,
dude, who are the main people who constantly bring up the culture war issues? It's the fucking right, dude. It's not the left. What the fuck are you talking about? The right can't compete in terms of material fucking conditions because they want to deteriorate material conditions further and further and further. So guess who are the people who always fucking talk about culture war issues? It's the right. I don't know. I disagree with this, by the way, Boy Meets Mini. I don't consider people like this to be liberal. She is a neoliberal. Neoliberals are not liberals. Quite literally. Anyone who is a neoliberal is not a liberal. They are on the right. They are conservatives. The people who we currently call conservatives are further to the right. They are either like dumb fuck like libertarians, schizos, or Nazis.
Here is a understandable catastrophizing around democracy, which you don't hear nearly as much when you're out talking to voters. What you hear when you're talking to voters is you hear about the cost of living. You hear about the bread and butter issues that are keeping people up at night, people who aren't on social media or aren't posting on social media. And so you hear a difference in priorities, but then you also hear a difference in approach. People are...
Okay, so then why are you fucking blaming fucking lefties for this? Lefties talk about material problems all the fucking time. That's one of the main things they focus on. You motherfuckers are the ones who don't focus on anything. You people, the problem with the Democrats is that they don't believe in anything. That's the issue that people are having with the Democrats.
Are hungry for an approach that doesn't treat our fellow citizens as enemies, but rather treats our fellow citizens as neighbors, even if we disagree with them. An approach that's just an approach that's filled with grace. And I think on social media, we have come to this conclusion, rightfully so, that people's grace has been abused in our society. That the grace of marginalized people, the patience of marginalized people has been abused. And that is true. But on social media, the course correction to that has been to eliminate all grace from our politics. It's how dare you have conversations with people who disagree with you? How dare you be willing to work with people who disagree with you? How dare you compromise? How dare you...
Bro, these are quite literally like 0.1% of the most annoying dumb fucking morons on the planet. And I don't even know if like woke scolds even have that much cultural prominence anymore. I hardly see stupid, annoying, dumb fucking woke scolds. Again, these are fucking issues that you can't really fucking goddamn compromise on. Like, what is the compromise here? Like, think about it for like literally 3 fucking seconds. What compromise is to be had here? I've had conversations with dumb fucks about fucking trans rights before, right? And I'm just like, yeah, it's really like all the stuff that you're saying, broadly speaking, is really not that big of a fucking deal. Did I fucking cancel them because of it? No. I understand that the average voter is a dumb fuck who is hardly educated on these political fucking issues, and so I meet them where they're at. I'm not stupid. Broadly speaking, most people who are activists aren't fucking stupid. They all understand this. But we want to blame the fucking activists and like 3 IQ dumb fuck 16-year-olds who barely have like an understanding of what politics is. They're the main fucking problems for as to why the left is losing on trans rights, all because the Republicans want to elevate those people and make them the sort of like main arbiters of this civil rights fucking movement, like they have always done throughout history, promote the most fucking extreme fucking voices in order to discredit a fucking movement. Quite literally, there's historical fucking precedent. And you want to focus on them specifically as being the main fucking problems, instead of pointing and saying like, no, it's that these fucking people are charlatans who don't want to actually focus on any of the main issues and just want to hurt and harm people. That is it.
Seek to find common ground with Republicans. And I think when you go out into the real world, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans...
Wait, why would you want to seek common ground with Republicans on this fucking issue? The common ground that Republicans have is that they just want to murder people. Like, that's all they want to do. They desire violence. That's it. There's no negotiating with those people. There's just, like, no point in negotiating with any people like that. They are violent. They just want to exterminate people. You cannot negotiate with that. It is stupid.
There is a hunger for some level of grace, for us to just not be so angry at one another and miserable. They want to see and know that we actually do have more in common, and therefore it gives you hope that persuasion is not only necessary, but can actually still be effective.
What does grace in politics mean to you, and when have you either seen it or experienced it?
I think grace in politics means, one, creating room for disagreement, assuming good intentions, assuming that the people who are on the other side of an issue from you aren't automatically hateful, horrible people. I think it means creating some space.
I have bad news for you. A lot of the people who live out in, like, rural fucking goddamn Alabama are just fucking hateful people. That's just how it is, okay? They are a bunch of lumpen fucking proletariat, undereducated fucking people who are just simply put hateful. And there's almost no way you can fucking negotiate with some people. At some point, you just have to acknowledge as an activist that some people are simply put way too fucking far gone. And this is such a small amount of the fucking population, broadly speaking, who aren't necessarily going to aren't going to go out into the city, become like roving, annoying bands of like vigilante, I don't know, marauders and trying to kill like whichever queer that they're going to get their hands on. It's silly.
For disagreement within your own coalition, I think it's a kindness that just feels so missing from our body politic and our national dialogue. And look, I saw it in the Delaware State Senate on both sides of the aisle, whether it's in Republicans in Delaware joining on to be co-sponsors on an LGBTQ panic defense bill that I was the prime sponsor of, whether it was the discourse being much kinder and more civil on a whole host of even cultural war issues.
Oh,
I saw that
civility.
Grace have...
Dude, fucking Michelle Obama and the consequences are gonna fucking goddamn be the death of, I don't know, dumb fucking liberals and liberalism for, like, the rest of the fucking century. Oh, we have to keep taking the high road on all these like dumbass fucking motherfuckers who do not care about lying, cheating, and stealing in order to be able to gain power. It's stupid.
The effect of lowering the temperature, removing some of the incentives to go after vulnerable people in this country and our state. I saw it with my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle who didn't vote for bills that were deeply personal to me, and yet we still found ways to work together. We still found ways to develop friendships. And look, I know that places more of a burden on me than it does on them. Right? I know that when you're asking a marginalized person to extend grace in a conversation, you're asking much more of that marginalized person. But change making isn't always easy, and it's not always fair. And why would we expect that the extra burdens and barriers of marginalization would cease at the point of overcoming marginalization, of creating the change necessary to eliminate prejudice and greed?
Yeah, that's a fantastic fucking point. Yeah, the assumption that that everyone is a subjective, independent thinker is why we're in this shitstorm to begin with. And there it fucking is. Someone needs to learn about the death of subjectivity. Crazy. fucking be due to economic material conditions that exist in the United States right now, people could give less of a flying fuck of being subjective thinkers. No one gives a shit about any of that because what are they primarily focused on? Putting food on the table and paying their fucking bills. No one gives a fuck about engaging in, like, I don't know, the basic tenets of fucking goddamn philosophy and becoming a subjective, independent fucking thinker because people are fucked economically. That's the main fucking issue that's going on here. But again, like, this motherfucker's never going to fucking acknowledge any of those problems because she doesn't actually, like, she's a part of a party that doesn't give a flying fuck about any of this shit.
Opportunity in our society. That's where the barriers are going to be greatest. That's where the burdens are going to be greatest.
It reminds me of a line that I hear it less now.
Yeah, exactly.
But I used to
Trump
see
is
a lot,
anti-war,
which
war
is,
is good now.
It's not my job to educate you.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought about that line because on one level I understood it. I mean, it's probably not your job to educate anyone. And then if you're in politics, if what you're trying to do is political change, I always found that line to be almost anti-political.
Yeah.
Right? That if what you want to do is change a law, change a society, change a heart, and you're the one who wants to do it, well then whose job is it? And who are you expecting to do it?
It's an understandable.
Okay, so the people who generally speaking say it is not my job to fucking educate you are typically dumb fuck, really annoying people online, okay? Are we still hyper fixating on, like, annoying dumb fucking, like, Marxist-Leninists online? Because those are generally the people who fucking say that line. That's fucking stupid, okay? No one gives a shit about any of that. Activists don't think like that. Politicians don't fucking think like that. What the fuck are you talking about? Stupid.
Frustration. But it's the only way forward. And look, I don't believe that every person from an underrepresented or an unrepresented community needs to always bear the brunt and burden of public education, right? Like, I don't believe that every LGBTQ person has to be out and sharing their story and doing all that hard work. But for the folks who are willing to do it, we need to let them. And one of the problems we've had is that...
Yeah, too bad you people like you are incredibly fucking ineffective if you think that hyper fucking fixating on what the fucking activists as the main problem being to trans rights is fucking stupid, dude.
We've gone from, it's not my job as an individual person who's just trying to make it through the day to educate everyone, to no one from that community should educate. And frankly, no, we should just stop having this conversation, because the fact that we're having this conversation at all is hurtful and oppressive. And maybe it is hurtful. But you can't foster social change if you don't have a conversation. You can't change people if you exclude them. And I will just say, you can't have absolutism on the left or the right without authoritarianism. Right? The fact that we have real disagreements, the fact that we have difficult conversations, the fact that we have painful conversations is not a bug of democracy. It's a feature of democracy. And yes, that is hard and difficult. But again, how can we expect that the process of overcoming marginalization is going to be fair? And I think the discourse
So she's trying to say that what activists want to do is inherently fucking authoritarian. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Okay, we want to talk about this is very rich coming from a fucking Democrat, okay, who literally tried to push Joe Biden through the fucking primary process. That's fucking inherently authoritarian. It's fucking stupid, dude. Like, this is complete fucking nonsense. Speaking out of both sides of her mouth. This is fucking insane, dude. This is fucking weak and fucking pathetic. Yeah, man, totally, dude. Yeah, it's the activists who are inherently being authoritarian by advocating for themselves. Yeah, man, totally. Despite the fact that, you know, a lot of the bullshit that's being peddled by, a bunch of disinformation artists to shift public opinion on fucking trans people, which you have acknowledged yourself is disinformation. And it turns out the activists don't have as much information, as much resources to be able to put out their accurate information, and the party apparatus that should be, you know, helping those activists be able to push out that message also is not fucking helping them either, because they don't agree with that position, because they don't believe in anything. Nonsense.
Has taken this understandable critique of society and the way we operate and the burdens we place on marginalized people, and we've somehow said, well, the one place that we have control over whether we allow for that marginalization is in the strategies we use to overcome it. We're not going to engage in that because it's sort of self-oppression. And I think that is such a self-defeating and counterproductive approach.
I've been thinking in the past couple of months, because we're in the most illiberal era of my lifetime in American politics. I don't mean liberalism in the sense of supporting or not supporting universal healthcare, but in terms of due process, in terms of tolerance, in terms of the basic practice of politics.
Tolerance? And we're talking about illiberalism on the left, and we want to be we want to be tolerant of these fucking fascist dipshits? Get the fuck out. Dude, fucking paradox of intolerance fucking bullshit, bro. Like, why should I be tolerant of the intolerant? Republicans are inherently intolerant. They are a party of intolerance. Why tolerate them? Why bother with that tolerance? They are inherently intolerant. Fuck these people, okay? They deserve to be driven out and, I don't know, gotten rid of. Quite literally. Fuck these people. Why should I fucking try to work with them? There is no working with Republicans. This has been the broader project of the Republican Party for the past 60 fucking years. Is the project of intolerance. There is no point in being tolerant with these people. They are inherently intolerant. There's no point in paying attention to those that are inherently fucking intolerant, because you cannot fucking work with these people on issues of tolerance. Nonsense. But we want to blame activists for not wanting to deal with Republicans who knowingly spread disinformation to people. It's fucking stupid, dude.
And living amidst each other. And it's also made me think about the need to clearly define what the practice of liberalism itself is. What do you think it is?
I think it is the recognition that in a free society, we are going to live and think differently. I think it is the allowance of that disagreement in the public square and the tussle of that disagreement in the public square. And that is uncomfortable. That is not easy. And yes, there are going to be people in that conversation for whom it's going to be more difficult and more uncomfortable. But in the internet world, you can't suppress diversity of thought. It will always bubble up, but it will bubble up if suppressed with an extra bitterness and extremism fostered in that echo chamber that it's been suppressed to. It'll inevitably bubble up like a volcano. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. I will say, I think, while the left...
Bro, what the fuck you Twitter got fucking bought by a schizophrenic, ketamine-addled billionaire who wanted to push Donald Trump for, what, billions upon billions of dollars, okay? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? He bought that shit because he wanted to fucking use it as a fucking goddamn megaphone in order to get more fucking wealthy. Like, that's why fucking discourse on all this shit is complete nonsense. If we need to look through Twitter, you open up like a new account on Twitter, you know what you're going to be fed like in probably not very long in scrolling on Twitter with the algorithm? You're going to be fed Nazi fucking propaganda, you dumbasses. But we want to blame the left for that. Nonsense.
Made this mistake of fostering an illiberalism based on a sort of false sense of cultural victory. I think now the right is making the exact same mistake. I think they're overplaying their hand. I think they're interpreting the 2024 election to be a cultural mandate that is much greater than what it actually is. And I think that if they continue to do that...
Wait, so she thinks that the 2020 election was a cultural mandate for fucking Democrats? What the fuck? Oh, Jesus Christ, man. What the fuck are you talking about? No, everyone just wanted to get that fucker Trump out. Holy shit, bro. Her brain is fucking cooked if that's what she actually fucking thinks.
There will be a backlash to the illiberalism, the cultural illiberalism, not just the legal illiberalism, the cultural illiberalism of the right, in the same way that there's been a backlash to the cultural illiberalism of the left.
I couldn't, I think, agree.
Cultural illiberalism of the left. Yeah, dude. Fuck, yeah, because like 0.1% of fucking posters on Twitter has caused a huge cultural backlash. Like, it's fucking stupid, man. Like, this is like complete schizo nonsense. Yeah, all because, like, I don't know, dumb fuck with a pit crew avatar from fucking, I don't know, 2018 said that, you know, honestly, I think, like, fey people are, like, totally okay and valid and heckin' cool, and if you think otherwise, then I think you're kind of cringe. And, you know, you have schizophrenics getting in there, being stupid and fucking annoying, and them fighting with all the fucking schizophrenics in those comments section. It just caused an inherent fucking, I don't know, cultural vibe shit. Yeah, it's fucking stupid, bro. Very, very ridiculous nonsense.
Agree with that more. We're going to get to that. I want to talk for a minute about the 2024 election and the aftermath. So there's been a lot of rethinking and self-recrimination among Democrats. One of the comments got a lot of attention came right after the election when Seth Moulton, who's your colleague, a Democratic congressman from Massachusetts, said, quote, Democrats spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. What do you think when you hear that?
That's a complete, like, stupid fucking nonsense. Like, that's, like, hardly going to fucking happen. It's fucking stupid.
One, that wasn't the language that I would use. But I think it came from a larger belief that the Democratic Party needed to start to have an open conversation about our illiberalism, that we needed to recognize that we were talking to ourselves. We were fighting fights that felt viscerally comforting to our own base, or fighting fights in a way that felt viscerally comforting to our own base, rather than maintaining proximity to the public and being normal people. I think the sports conversation is
No, that's not the reason why you people lost the 2024 elections, because you people don't believe in anything. That's the problem. Like, it's a complete vibe. I'm not like, this is like gonna be completely fucking worthless. Let me see. Building a broader coalition for trans rights. I'm more curious about that. I don't like the aftermath of the 2024. I don't expect this motherfucker to understand any of the reasonings for as to why. Guess who just fucking won the 2024 or the current primary election of 2025? Fucking Zoran Mamdani, because he actually pushed a positive message and he actually believes in stuff. Like, this moron doesn't fucking understand what happened with 2024, okay? Nonsense.
If you have to be perfect on every trans rights issue for us to say you can be an ally and part of our coalition, then we're going to have a cap of about 30% on our coalition. If we're going to have 50% plus one, or frankly, more necessary.
No one has said this. Again, has she talked with any, like, LGBTQ fucking activists? I'm curious. Do any of them fucking... Boy Meets Smitty, have you interacted with a lot of activists in LA? Do any of them believe this position? That you have to be absolutely picture peerless, clean, and fucking perfect? Again, the only people who fucking say shit like this are annoying fucking high schoolers who post on, like, Twitter or TikTok and shit. And those people are, like, a complete fucking fraction. Those people are, like, non-fucking existent. Like, it's nonsense, dude.
Necessarily 60% or more in support of non-discrimination protections for trans people, in support of our ability to get the healthcare that we need. By definition, it will have to include a portion of the 70% who oppose trans.
No, they understand that consensus has to be built first, but on a basis of principles of intersectionality. Yep, like I said, no activist thinks like that, because broadly speaking, whoa, maybe Sarah McBride needs to, like, put the phone down. You know, she needs to talk with more fucking normal people. You know. Maybe Sarah McBride is, this is just like, for her, it's just pure projection. I don't know.
Trans people's participation in sports. And right now, the message from so many is you're not welcome. And your support for 90% of these policies is irrelevant. The fact that you diverge on one thing makes you evil. And it also misunderstands the history of civil rights in this country. I mean, you can't compromise on civil rights is a great tweet. But tell me, which Civil Rights Act delivered all progress and all civil rights for people of color in this country? The Civil Rights Act of 1957, the Civil Rights Act of 1960, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Civil Rights Act of 1968, or any of the civil rights acts that have been passed since the 1960s. That movement was disciplined, it was strategic, it picked its battles, it picked its fights, and it compromised to move the ball forward.
Dude, bro, let's not talk about how radical... Listen, do we need to bring up the letter of the Birmingham jail? You are the definition of what fucking Martin Luther King hated the most. The white fucking moderate. It's actually fucking insane. Yeah, like, I think Sarah and Ezra here are really the terminally online purity dweebs. Because, again, no activist fucking thinks like that. And again, don't fucking evoke Martin Luther King Jr. in any of this fucking shit. He would have hated you two motherfuckers. And he was a fucking socialist. But again, this is the broader consequences of the whitewashing of fucking history. Again, by all these, like, stupid conservative motherfuckers. Because guess what? The two people that are talking with one another here are both conservatives.
And right now, that compromise would be deemed unprincipled, weak, and throwing everyone under the bus. And that is so counterproductive, it is so harmful, and it completely betrays the lessons of every single social movement and civil rights movement in our country's history. And we have an example of a very successful social movement in recent history with marriage equality. Where would we have been in 2007, 2008 if not only we had not tolerated the fact that Barack Obama was
ostensibly... Alright, again, one of the main people who fucking pushed for, like, gay liberation and shit like that was a fucking trans person, bro. Like, the fuck... Activists talk about the work of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, dude. Like, bro, like, you are the motherfucker here who doesn't understand history. You are the person who's trying to whitewash history here for the express purposes of, I don't know. Guys, if we are a little more technical and, technocratic in this particular issue, perhaps we'll see a 2% shift in the polls in terms of trans rights. Yeah, dude. Totally.
Simply not for marriage equality then. But if we had said to voters, if you're not, even if you vote against the marriage ban, but aren't quite comfortable with marriage yet, that you're a bigot and you don't belong in our coalition, where would that movement have been? The most effective messengers were the people who involved themselves. We had grace personified in that movement, and it worked beyond even the advocates' wildest expectations in terms of the speed of both legal progress and cultural progress. Because we created incentives for people to grow, we created space for people to grow, and we allowed people into our tent, into that conversation who weren't already with us.
You mentioned the period of 2008.
I've said this before, there's just, like, no evidence to suggest that's how activists operate today. Again, like, you're conflating stupid dipshits online and on Twitter with actual fucking activists. Yeah, that's nonsense.
When Barack Obama was running for president. And at the very least, his public position, many of us suspected it was not his private position, but his public position, was that he opposed gay marriage. That was the mainstream position at that point in the Democratic Party. And there was a compromise position they all supported, which was civil unions. Is there an analogy to the civil unions debate or position for you now?
I think on the sports conversation, it's local control. It's allowing for individual athletic associations to make those individual determinations. And in some cases, they'll have policies that strike a right balance. In some cases, they'll have policies that are too restrictive. And I think that is the equivalent to the civil union's position in that debate. By allowing for Democratic voters...
Dude, Robin DiAngelo and her consequences will affect, black civil rights for a fucking long time to come. Because if you think that, like, that shit was over after the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964... Oh, it's not over. People are still incredibly fucking racist to black people even to this day. Like, that's the argument that she's probably making. It's like, racism has ended ever since the all these different civil rights legislation passed during the 50s and the 60s. It's like, no, people are still, broadly speaking, quite racist to black people. I don't think racism has ended, you fucking dumbass.
Independent voters, hell, even some elected officials to take that civil union's position. One, that met voters where they were. It gave some of our politicians who needed it an off-ramp so that they didn't have to choose between being all on or all off. And
okay, I don't care
it allowed that conversation to continue and prevented more harm from being inflicted.
I want to pick up on the polling.
I don't care about the polling.
It's true on transgender issues. It's also true on a bunch of other issues in the past couple of years.
We've already talked about the fucking polling. Again, like, broadly speaking, people do support fucking transgender issues and don't think politicians should focus on them, okay? Like, nobody gives a fuck about these issues. Like, quite literally, this is like one of the least concerning issues for most Americans. They care more about, well, material fucking conditions, not about transgender issues. It's complete nonsense. It's shoehorned in fucking bullshit because the Republicans, again, want to use it as a scapegoat, as a distraction, so they can pass their wretched, horrible policies.
That a huge number of the fights that ended up defining the issue were not about legislation, they were about speech. I've always myself sort of thought this reflects social media, but I mean, the number of people who've talked to me about the term birthing persons, which I think virtually nobody has used, or Latinx was a big one like this. There is, in general, this extreme weighting of can you push changes...
Looking at you, Anna Kasparian.
...speech onto the people who agree with you and possibly onto society as a whole. And that the strategy worked backwards from the speech outcome, not the legislative outcome. How do you think about that weighting of speech versus votes?
I think, look, there is no question in my mind that...
Well, no, I think Ezra Klein, he said himself. You can listen to that again. I think he said, like, yeah, a lot of the people focus on, like, Latinx and all that stuff, but it's, like, mostly nonsense. Like, who cares about that?
It's true on transgender issues. It's also true on a bunch of other issues in the past couple of years. That a huge number of the fights that ended up defining the issue were not about legislation, they were about speech. I've always myself sort of thought this reflects social media, but I mean, the number of people who've talked to me about the term birthing persons, which I think virtually nobody has used, or Latinx was a big one like this. There is, in general, this extreme weighting of can you push changes of speech onto the people who agree with you and possibly onto society as a whole. And that the strategy worked backwards from the speech outcome, not the legislative outcome. How do you think about that weighting of speech versus votes?
Yeah, so that's not him saying, like, it's because of that fucking discourse this stuff has happened. He's saying, like, yeah, it's more fucking neutral, to be honest. He's saying, like, yeah, do you think, to Sarah McBride, that those had a particular weight in terms of, like, speech, in terms of, like, legislation, that speech has had a particular effect on fucking legislation? Because, again, dumbasses like Anna Kasparian would say, because of the term of birthing person being used by people like AOC, that is the reason why, now I have to agree with a bunch of conservatives on a bunch of idiotic fucking bullshit, all because of a particular use of speech pattern, which is fucking nonsense.
I think, look, there is no question in my mind that the vote is much more important than the rhetoric that they use. We have sort of discoursed our way into, like, if you talk about this issue in a way that's suboptimal from my perspective, you're actually laying the foundation for oppression and persecution. And I just think, like, maybe academically that's true, but welcome to the real world. Like, we are prioritizing the wrong thing. It's an element of sort of virtue signaling. Like, I'm showing that I am the most radical, I'm the most progressive on this issue because I'm going to take this person who does everything right substantively and crucify this person for not being perfect in language. It's a way of demonstrating that you're in the in-group, that you understand the language, that you
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Well, this is where Sarah McBride is fucking taking it. Again, she wants to keep blaming the fucking activists. That's the fucking problem here. Like, that's not the fucking issue. The issue is with why this fucking language is being hyper fixated on is because there's a dishonest disinformation campaign that is hyper fixating on the fact that this language is being used, which is scientific language. Whoa, crazy. That's not meant to be used by the public. Whoa, crazy.
understand the mores and the values of that group, and it's a way of building capital and credibility with that in-group. I think that's what it is, and I just think it's inherently exclusionary, and I think that's part of the thing that's wrong with our politics right now, which is that all of our politics feels so exclusionary. The coalition that wins the argument about who is most welcoming will be the coalition
Again,
that wins.
the people who are exclusionary are it's the Republicans. It's the Republicans, and you want to blame like some stupid, annoying dumbasses on Twitter for it. It's silly.
Our politics.
I think that's such an interesting point, and I think probably true. I'll just be curious your thoughts on this. I think there's a very interesting way that speech and its political power confuse people because it's two things at once. It's extremely low cost and extremely high cost. So pronouns, for instance, I think are correctly. It's a very, very easy thing. And basically, if you won't use somebody's preferred pronouns, I think you're an asshole. That's my personal view of it. But trying to execute a speech change where everybody lists their pronouns in their bio, where every meeting begins with people going around the circle and saying their name and their pronouns, that feels very different to people. It seems small, right? I mean, you don't have to pay anything out of pocket, right? You don't have to go anywhere. And yet the language we use is very, very important to us.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And I think the thing with pronouns too.
Again, okay, like who the fuck cares about again, this is a who the fuck cares about that? If they don't want to fucking distinguish their fucking pronouns and I get them wrong by accident and they get mad at me, I'll be like, dude, you didn't fucking say to me what your pronouns were, so like, Again, the whole pronoun discourse is, again, something that's been ginned up by the Republican stupid dumb fuck propaganda machine to be an issue that is focused upon for like no reason. It's fucking stupid. It's a complete red herring.
Is a prime example of where we've lost grace, though.
You calling people assholes is not graceful.
Well, no. I think there's a difference between someone who's intentionally misgendering someone and people who make mistakes. And I think that there has been, whether warranted or not, the perception that people are going.
Wait, broadly speaking, but the thing is that again, a lot of people understand if they're making fucking mistakes, if they don't do any tensions, and they'll just inherently make a cancel mob about it. Again, like, okay, let's say boy meets Minnie. Let's say you're trans. Okay, you go by she. And I say, oh, boy meets Minnie. He is my good pal. Okay, go along with the fucking role play here. Boy meets Minnie. We're doing a little bit of a dynamic example here. Are you saying it by accident, or honestly? Okay, boy meets Minnie. You fucked up. Boy meets Minnie. God damn it. It's like, no, actually, it's like, oh, I apologize. I go by she, her, or whatever. God damn it, boy meets Minnie. Okay, we're doing this again. Okay, we're doing the bit again. Fuck you. Okay, boy meets Minnie. I transed you. Okay, I hit you with the trans meme. Bop, 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 bop. You're trans now. You go by she, her pronouns. Okay, very cool. You are now a she, her. Fantastic, excellent. Congratulations. I transed you. Very good, fantastic. Okay, we're gonna do the meme again. Okay, now that you understand. Okay, this is my friend, boy meets Minnie. He's pretty cool. Sorry, I go by she, her. It's okay if you get it wrong. Oh, I apologize for making that mistake. I'm very sorry. I had no idea that you now go by she, her. I will be sure to correct that. My apologies. Whoa, crazy. That's how most trans people normally fucking react. Oh my god. Whoa, crazy. But most conservatives, you know what they do? They'll be like, no, you're actually a he. You're a man. Yeah, you're actually a man. You're a man. Yeah. That's how, the intolerant, the fucking conservatives, the Republicans will act. I would look at like a picture of Boy Meets Minnie and be like, I'm actually, clearly you are not a trans woman. You are still clearly a man because I can tell by the heft and cleft of your shoulders and by your chin bone density structures that, you're actually a man. You're not a woman. Okay? This is the fucking problem. You can't negotiate or have civil conversations with these people. They are intolerant. You can't work with these people. You can't work with them. There's no point in trying to work with them, which is why the left vociferously goes after and attacks them. Whoa, crazy. If you are a well-adjusted human being, okay, and you're just normal, and you've been taught manners by your fucking parents, generally speaking, you'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I fucked up here. I apologize. I will make sure to appropriately adjust when I address you next. Whatever. And I have a hard time with this in particular, especially with people's names, because I'm just really bad with people's names. I'm bad with people's names, okay? It takes me a while to get used to someone's fucking name. That's just how I am. People understand this and have an understanding, broadly speaking, of fucking, like, civil interactions. The problem with fucking conservatives is that they have been taught to be shut-in isolationists and to, well, devalue social interaction with other people. That is the problem. But again, does Sarah McBride fucking recognize that? No.
To be shamed if they make mistakes. But then I think you're absolutely right, too, that there is a distinction between treating me the way I want to be treated and everyone changing their behavior and sort of requiring this sort of, again, in-group language that exceeds just calling the person in front of you what they want to be called.
And I think it gets to something we were talking about earlier, which is a way that there are two pieces to the politics of this. One is fairly popular, at least for now, and the other is a much tougher lift, which is I think most people have that basic sense of politeness. If you want to be referred to in a certain way, yes, I might slip up, but, if I'm a decent person, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Versus the move on pronouns to, move for calling,
This is insane that Ezra Klein actually fucking acknowledges that people do have fucking common courtesy still. But again, like I mentioned before, there are people who do not have common courtesy, and you are trying to show them the fact that, I honestly, I still think you do have common fucking courtesy. No, they fucking don't. They are just assholes, and they should be treated like the monstrous little pieces of shit that they are. Sorry, sometimes Occam's fucking razor. If we want to, like, these two motherfuckers love to wax poetically in terms of, like, pseudo-intellectual philosophical talk. All right, let's bring in a little bit of fucking philosophical sort of rhetorical terms in here. Occam's fucking razor, motherfucker. Sometimes the most simple thing is the fucking correct thing. And with people like transphobes, like J.K. Rowling, they are just nothing more than bigots who want power. Systems of hierarchy and control. But these people are neoliberals, and they are okay with these fucking systems being in place. They just want to use it for their own purposes, when inherently this is an inherent conservative structure that needs to be dismantled if you want equitable outcomes. Maintenance of hierarchy and control is inherently incompatible with civil rights. Quite literally. A broad coalition movement being incompatible, that pushes for the civil equity of all fucking peoples that are under it, being incompatible with a top-down architecture that has people with the most capital and are typically white cisgender men. That is a system that has been built up over hundreds upon hundreds of years, is going to be inherently incompatible with civil rights movements that want to push for more civil equity and liberty for all peoples of different stripes, colors, and shapes. Are, always going to be at inherent odds with one another? Oh my god, say it ain't so. If we want to wax poetically about fucking philosophy, sure, dude.
Cisgender, that was a much bigger effort than in some ways wasn't described as such. And I feel like there's been a dimension of politics here where things that were very academic arguments became political arguments, and then people were a little bit unclear on what the political win would be. To like destabilize.
Ezra, who are the ones that did that? Who did that, Ezra? Ezra, who are the ones that? Oh, it was the Republicans. Are you Ezra? You still have a chance to redeem yourself. Are you going to say that? Are you going to say who are the main people that did this? Is Sarah going to say? Okay, let's keep going. Like, maybe they have an opportunity to redeem themselves here in terms of this point. Because what they're saying is like, okay, yeah, good. This is good. Are they going to recognize who are using these in inherently dishonest ways?
As a fundamental gender binary that people understand as operating is, touching something very deep in society, versus treating other people with respect and courtesy and decency and grace.
Yeah.
Is a much easier sell. And I think it's okay to want to do the former, but I think people kept sort of mixing up which their actual project was.
At the end of the day, the thing that we lost is that we're just talking about people trying to live their lives, trying to live the best lives they can. We got into this rabbit hole of academic intellectual discourse that doesn't actually matter in people's lives. We got into this performative fighting to show our bona fides to our own in-group.
They're not going to mention the people who are inherently who are dishonestly bringing up these fucking issues. They're not going to do it. 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 I told them the off-ramp. I told them the off-ramp. They're not taking the off. Boy Meets Minnie, they're not taking the off-ramp. They're not going to take it. Whoa, crazy. The obvious thing that fucking happened, that the off-ramp that I very clearly outlined for them to take, they're not going to take it. Crazy.
Group. And we lost the fundamental truth that all of those things are only even possible once you've done the basic legwork of allowing people to see trans people as people. When you allow trans people to be seen as human beings who have the same hopes and dreams and fears as everyone else, once that basic conception of humanity exists, then all the other things, all the other conversations sort of fall into place. Language inevitably changes across society, across cultures, across time, but it is a byproduct of cultural change. And I just think we started to have what maybe were conversations that were happening in academic institutions or conversations that were happening in sort of in the community. And we started having those out in public on social media and then demand that everyone else has that conversation with us and then incorporates what the dominant position is in that conversation and the way they live their lives. And it's just like, that's not how this happens. Let's just talk about human beings who want you to live by the golden rule. Let's just talk about the fact that trans people are people who can be service members and doctors and lawyers and educators and elected officials and do a damn good job in that. That is the gateway to everything else, and it has always been in every social movement.
The place where it is complicated.
They're not. They didn't do it. They didn't take the off-ramp. Allow me to explain the problem. Republicans don't think trans people are human. I just built the whole. I just found the whole connection. Incredible. Very cool. Healthcare for my. I don't think I give a shit about any of this stuff, right? Born This Way discourse, right-wing narrative on choice gets. I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. Working with Republicans in Congress, I don't care about that. Liberalism and good politics require clear enemies. Let's have a see. Let's have a look-see here.
To hear your answer to it. I've been having this conversation about whether or not good politics always requires clear enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe it does?
No.
Of course you don't.
I believe that you can tell a compelling story with an enemy. There's no question. It sometimes is an easy out in our politics. But I think that there's something to be said about politics that is rooted in opposition to an enemy that is fundamentally regressive, that anger is fundamentally conservative in its political outcome. Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton for that matter, did a good job of putting forward an aspirational politics that wasn't defined by who we were against, but by what we were for.
Okay, that's holy. Yeah, and then they ended up fucking lying, and that's not true. You want to know how fucking how fucking Barack Obama won the 2012 election? It wasn't by being aspirational or whatever the fuck and ascribing hope and change. He had an opportunity to do some actual fucking hope and change, was offered 2 fucking off-ramps during 2008 and took none of them. And whoa, instead of being able to let people go bankrupt on their fucking home debt because of the 2008 financial crash, he didn't allow that to happen. Crazy. And also bailing out the fucking banks and the major corporations because of the fucking 2008 financial crash. Whoa, fantastic, crazy. Making it such that the homeowners have to be the only ones who have to pay for the fucking burdens of, Dodd-Frank, of the fucking legislation that was passed in order to mitigate 2008. So, that's cool. That's great. No, you want to know what fucking happened? Where's that I want that Obama 2012 Romney, I think it was $47 million ad. I want this. 47% remarks. Is this what it is? I think this is it. Yeah, 47% of Americans did not pull their weight.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When Mitt Romney dismissed 47% of Americans for not pulling their weight, he attacked millions of hardworking people making $25,000, $35,000, $45,000 a year. They pay Social Security taxes, state taxes, local taxes, gas, sales, and property taxes. Romney paid just 14% in taxes last year on over...
That is what fucking won Obama in 2012. Outlining a clear fucking enemy. Romney is an out-of-touch millionaire who hardly paid any taxes and is denigrating the vast majority of taxpayers who have paid way more in taxes in comparison to Romney. That was what won 2012. Not aspirational fucking bullshit That won in 2008 because, fundamentally speaking, people wanted a change from George Bush, who just caused a major fucking recession to have happened and also lied the American people into Iraq. Now, it was a complete lie from what we know from Obama, so he had to change up the fucking strategy to be able to get reelected in 2012. And that was what won him the 2012 election. It's not about grace and advocating for things that they were for. Nonsense. This was what won Obama his second term in office.
And about who we can be. And I think that that is a more successful path for progressive politics than an enemies-based politics, which so often devolves to anger, which I think more often than not facilitates in the medium and long term of progressive politics. Look, I'm not saying it can't always be effective politics, but that you can have effective politics and good politics and better outcomes with an aspirational politics, with a politics that isn't just about what it's opposed to, but about what it can build and about who we can be. Because I think everyone has sort of this own internal struggle between their own better selves and their better...
Yeah, you want to know who did the perfect blend of this? Zoran Mamdani, the guy who just won. He talked about things he was for, things he wants to build towards, but he also outlined the very clear enemy, which, broadly speaking, the American people understand are the broad, very clear enemy. Yeah, Zoran is mean to fucking racists. Yeah, totally. This is what this fucking dipshit would probably say. Zoran is very clear on who is the main fucking enemy. Who are the people who rob the proletariat, who rob honest, hard-working New Yorkers of their fucking time, money, and resources. It is the billionaires. It is the corporations. They are the main fucking problem here. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when Jesus did say, love your enemies, he didn't mean this, Sarah. That's a very good point, Boy Meets Mini.
Better angels and their base instincts.
Much earlier in the conversation, I'd asked you about liberalism, which was a little bit of a weird question to drop in there. And I don't really have a question. It's just something I'm thinking about, but you actually strike me as one of the most liberal as a temperament. Liberal in the classical sense. Politicians I've talked to in a long time. And I've been starting to read a lot of older books about liberalism because it feels to me that it is a thing, an approach to politics that even liberals lost.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I think we lost...
It's because you're not a liberal. Sorry. If you want to read some actual fucking liberals, why don't you read some of the Enlightenment thinkers? They have some quite interesting radical fucking beliefs that motherfuckers like yourself would not agree with. Adam Smith? Ooh, he would not be a fan of the current laissez-faire capitalist system. A lot of the other fucking Enlightenment thinkers, guess what? They were for open borders. For men, explicitly, of course. Because these theories were being written during the Renaissance era. Galileo? His radical theories on science? He got persecuted by the Inquisition for that. You people are fucking conservative. You just don't want to fucking recognize it. Yeah, Adam Smith, that is also true, Alex. Adam Smith didn't really like landlords all that much. Ezra, you want the power to still be maintained by the landlords. Maybe for Ezra to actually learn some actual liberal theory, maybe he needs to read some fucking Adam Smith and actually read some Adam Smith. Maybe I should read some fucking Adam Smith just so I can shit on these fucking more stupid, dumb fucking Abunda dumbasses.
Lost it. I very much count myself as a liberal. Was a feeling that liberalism's virtue was its vice. That its openness to critique, its constant balancing, its movement towards incremental solutions, and its skepticism of total solutions, that those have been these conditions under which problems never truly got solved. Systemic racism and bigotry festered. And I think as it began to absorb that critique, it lost a lot of confidence in itself.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it had Barack Obama, who was like the apex of the liberal leaders, and he hadn't brought about utopia.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seemed exhausted. And I think alongside that, there's some way in which I still need to figure this out, but I'll say it because I believe it's true. I think there's something about the social media platforms that is illiberal as a medium. I think the reason that, X, we have Blue Sky and we have Threads, and none of them are good.
Yeah.
They all lead to bad habits of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because simplifying your thoughts down to these little bumper stickers, and then having other people who agree with you retweet them or mob you, is just...
We're talking about fucking blue... Dude, and we're not talking about the schizophrenic Nazi site, the Nazi hellhole that is... Okay, whatever. That is Twitter? Like, yeah, stupid, bro. Yeah, Jesus Christ, man.
Doesn't lend itself to the...
Dude, like, Ezra, I've said stuff before, and I've had, like, complete, like, moron schizos get in the fucking replies and argue with me. I don't live in a fucking bubble at all. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Schizos fucking come into my comment section in every fucking goddamn video I post constantly. Like, cope, seethe, bald. It's ridiculous.
The pluralistic, balancing modes of thought that liberalism is built to prize. They're illiberal in a fundamental way. And so I don't think it's an accident that as liberalism began to lose its own moorings, illiberalism roared back. And just one experience I've had of this whole period with Donald Trump the second term is realizing that the thing that we were trying to keep locked in the basement was really dangerous.
Yeah.
Really, really profoundly dangerous. Even compared to his first term, I mean, the attacks on due process, the trying to break institutions, that if you let that out, if you let the disappearance machine get started, that things can go really badly. And there's something about liberalism that is so unsatisfying. I mean, the work you just described having to do, it sounds so...
It's because you people aren't fucking liberals. You're not actually fucking liberals. This is a segment that I really want to fucking do at one point, talking about how neoliberals are not actually liberal. I need to ask some people for some, I don't know, quick, interesting reference material. Because neoliberals are not actually liberals. Simply put, they are not. Under every fucking circumstance. The main problem is if you look at any of the tenets of the broader, I think like the main sort of liberal thinkers that you can look at are it's Kant, Adam Smith. Adam Smith would have so many fucking problems with the current construction of the world, and I'm not sure exactly who are like more of the main sort of like what is it? Main like liberal. No, I don't want Yanis Varoufakis. No, Yanis Varoufakis is a socialist, right? Like I don't know if he's like an actual like true. I'm talking about like Enlightenment fucking liberal thinkings, right? Like he's a socialist. Like that's not what I'm looking for. Boy meets many. Socialists have gone beyond liberalism. Liberal thinkers of the Enlightenment. No, it's like John Locke, Rousseau. Yeah, Rousseau. I forgot about Rousseau. He's one of the main guys. Thomas Hobbes as well. These people were, well, liberals. Thomas Paine, I believe, is also one of them. I think. The main ones are the main two I believe are John Locke and Thomas Hobbes. I believe. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, these motherfuckers would completely disagree with most of the ideas that all of these dumbasses fucking are saying. Like, it's the most fucking annoying fucking dog shit on the fucking planet that all of these fucking philosophers... Hume is also another one. David Hume, I believe, is also another one that sort of, like, talks about the sort of, like, basis of the Enlightenment theories and the Enlightenment theories, right? These motherfuckers would not agree with any of the things these neoliberals talk about. And these are actual, like, classic liberal thinkers. Like, John Locke is a classic liberal thinker. I think even Thomas Paine would have been considered a classic liberal thinker. Like, they just don't agree. They don't fucking agree with any of the bullshit these motherfuckers have to say. It's incredible to me. Now, these fucking, the 18 essential classic liberal thinkers, it's all just like dumb fuck libertarians. It really tells you just how much all these, like, motherfuckers have completely, like, misappropriated and, like, don't believe in, like, anything that these motherfuckers have to say. It's incredible how, like, just history has, like, completely twisted and perverted all these terms to mean something completely different. But, I keep saying, I reiterate this point. Neoliberals aren't actually fucking liberals. That is a farce. It's nonsense for them to be saying this, because in reality, what they are is conservative. Who was the one who helped catalyze and shepherd in the current neoliberal movement? It was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was very much so to the fucking right. And he's like the main inspiration for these sort of like far-right shit stains that currently fucking exist. I need people to, broadly speaking, understand, like, on pure sort of ideological, philosophical basis, neoliberals are just, like, so ridiculously, like, perverted and, like, far off and twist history. And this is a quality that I think conservatives do all the time. Neoliberals love doing this. twist and pervert history in order to have satisfaction of political goals and aims. This is a thing that conservatives do all the time. It's that, and also worship of fucking political figures. Every neoliberal fucking worships dumbasses like fucking Barack Obama all the fucking time, as if he is a god. And also death of subjectivity. Very much so. Now, with neoliberals, they're not as bad in terms of the death of subjectivity stuff. However, like, when it comes to mostly engaging with the left, they engage in death of subjectivity all the fucking time. With the right, oh, they're willing to be highly subjective thinkers and willing to listen and understand their perspectives all the fucking time. Constantly. Because they themselves are conservative. So they're going to be more receptive to those ideas. No need for subjective thinking there. They probably agree. They just think it's a little too optically untenable. That is the fucking problem.
Unsatisfying and frustrating. And yet, something, I guess there's that, and yet.
And yet it is the approach and the system that, while imperfect, is the most likely and most proven to actually lead to the progress that I and I know so many others seek. Look, people have one life, and it is completely understandable.
Civil rights was won by fucking socialists. Like, it's nonsense, dude. These people, they're just fucking perverting history for their own purposes and means, which is the thing that conservatives do all the time.
That a person would feel, I have one life, and when you ask me to wait, you are asking me to watch my one life pass by without the respect and fairness that I deserve, and that is too much to ask of anyone, and that is. It is our job to demand now, in the face of people who say never. But it's also our job to then not reject the possibility for a better tomorrow as that compromise. I truly believe that liberalism, that our ability to have conversations across disagreement, that our ability to recognize that in a pluralistic, diverse democracy, there will be inevitably people and positions that hurt us. But when you're siloed and when you suppress that opposition underground in that basement, to use your word, they're alone in there. And not only does that sense of sort of community loneliness breed bitterness, but it also breeds radicalization. Liberalism is not only the best mechanism.
Yeah, that's just not even true. Like, that's not how that fucking works at all. There's a reason why TOSs exist on, like, fucking social media. Because, again, if you allow it to just come out into the fucking open, it's going to drown out whatever fair political discourse that you're fucking saying. Like, look at Twitter. Twitter used to be a pretty diverse forum where people said, like, whatever the fuck they wanted constantly. And now what are you going to be generally fed through the Twitter algorithm, unless it's very specifically curated? It's AI slop and Nazi shit. Crazy.
To move forward. But it's also the best mechanism to rein in the worst excesses of your opposition. Yes, the compromise is you don't get to do everything you want to do. But that is a much better bet than the alternative, which is what we have developed now, which is an
So again, like I said before, this is what conservatism is. What she's arguing for is for the status quo. That is what conservatism is. That's not liberalism. Liberalism is for inherent liberty, pushing the boundaries, going further forward. Now, socialism is a further extension, a sort of like leaving of those fucking boundaries, quite literally. But what these motherfuckers are asking for is not that. They are asking for status quo. They are asking for, let's just keep things the way that they are right now, you know, like change a little few things around the edges. That's not what liberalism is. That is conservatism. Quite literally. But again, these people, they don't know. Well, it's not that they don't know. It's because they don't actually fucking give a shit about, they're not actually fucking liberals. And I almost feel like probably, I don't know, like, does Ezra know about that? I don't know. Maybe. Sarah McBride, does she know that she's not an actual liberal? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if she actually had no fucking idea. But again, if we're talking about philosophical fucking basis here, these people are advocating for conservatism, not for fucking liberalism. Liberal thinkers, all the classical fucking liberal thinkers would disagree with everything that they have to say. The thinkers of the Enlightenment is who I'm specifically talking to here. None of them would agree with any of the bullshit they're saying.
Liberal democracy in so many ways in our body politic. One where, yes, we might have temporary victories, but as we are seeing right now, those victories can be fleeting, and the consequences can be deadly.
Was this always your political temperament, or was it forged?
I have grown and changed. I think, there are things that I did and said 5, 10, 15 years ago that I look back and regret because I think that they were too illiberal. Because I think I bought into...
She used to be a fucking radical. Okay, yeah, and she became cucked. She cucked herself. Well, she went into Congress probably as a fiery voice and became more fucking cucked as a result. Nah, there it is. There it is. Cut.
A culture online that didn't always bring out the best in me. But I do think that those were exceptions. And even when I was an advocate, I was always perceived as one of the more mainstream respectability advocates. I was always considered someone who was too willing to work across disagreement and engage in conversations that we shouldn't be having. I was always considered someone who was too willing to work within the system. I think I fundamentally always had the same perspective and fundamentally have always believed that we cannot eliminate race from our politics and our change making, and that's...
Okay, so yeah, like literally she's the motherfucker who is if I were to use the example of AOC, she is the person who, by the way, hey lefties, this is who they think AOC is. It's Sarah McBride, right? Who the fucking lefties think that AOC really is? It's motherfuckers like Sarah McBride. This is the actual person you should be constantly deriding and hating, not fucking AOC, who is more like an actual fucking liberal. But whatever. Philosophy is fucking dead. None of these words mean anything. These words clearly aren't in the Bible, so who the fuck gives a shit about any of them?
That's rooted in watching my parents grow and change after I came out. Like, I went into that experience knowing my parents were going to... They're progressive people. They embraced my older brother, who's gay, without skipping a beat. But I knew when I shared that I was trans with them, it was going to be devastating, to use a word that my mother uses. And I knew that if I responded by shutting down the conversation, by refusing to walk with them, by refusing to give them grace and assume good intentions when they would inevitably say and do things that might be hurtful to me, I would stunt their capacity to take that walk with me. And I saw us as a family move forward with a degree of grace toward each other, that we were all going to inevitably say and do things that...
Yes, but your parents already inherently agreed with fucking gay marriage, so this is not like a step too far for them, ideologically speaking. This is fucking nonsense, dude. Again, you cannot tolerate the intolerable. You can't fucking reason with them very often. It's ridiculous.
We would come to regret that might hurt a little bit, but that if we assume good intentions and walk forward, that my parents would go from saying, what are the chances that I have a gay son and a trans child, from a place of pity to a place of awe in the diversity of our family and the blessings that have come with that diversity. And that only came from grace. And then I saw it working in Delaware, passing non-discrimination protections. I've seen it time and time again. And so I've borne witness to change that once seemed so impossible to me as a kid that it was almost incomprehensible, not only become possible, but become a reality in large part because of grace in our politics. And yes, because I was willing to extend that grace to others.
Grace, blessings, witness.
Yeah, again, like this complete concept about fucking grace is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You can't extend and show grace. You're not fucking Winona, okay? You don't spam flying type Pokemon, okay? That's not how that fucking works, okay? You can't extend grace to those who are simply put incredibly crude and intolerable. That's not how that works. You don't extend grace to them. You beat them into submission. That's the only fucking way to deal with these people. You show that, you don't be graceful and show them pity. You beat them down and say, yeah? What? You're upset about the fact that I identify this way? Cope about it. What the fuck are you gonna do about it? What, you're gonna get a fucking gun and try to shoot me? Fucking do it, pussy. I'll be ready for you, you fucking loser. Do it! And more often than not, generally those people aren't gonna follow through. Depends on how far down the rabbit hole they are. But a lot of those people tend to not really fucking, follow through on those fucking particular threats. They don't. Simply put, they're too afraid. They understand the consequences. They're not stupid. Not entirely stupid. They'll be stupid about particular political issues. But they know if they go around running around doing a fucking random killing spree, it's going to make them, their family, and their legacy and their political movement that they agree with look really fucking bad. Crazy. Why do you think when hate crimes constantly happen, why do you think all the fucking dumbass far righters are constantly like, schizo, fed, glowy, and shit like that all the time? They disavow it constantly. Nonsense. Wait, what are book recommendations? What are they? I'm curious. Team of Rivals, The Political Genius of Abraham Lincoln, These Truths, The Final Days. Okay. Cool. Whatever. I was curious what the books were. All right. Lovely. Well, as I expected from Sarah McBride, tepid fucking neoliberalism, this fucking pussy-ass tier bullshit is not what's going to win, okay? No one gives a fuck about any of this idiotic bullshit. You are willing to extend grace to those who do not see you as human, want to fucking exterminate you, and only respond to one thing and one thing only, and that is strength. They don't give a shit about any of this grace bullshit. They're gonna just like smack you in the face, call you a fucking F slur, T slur, and I don't know, talk about how they want to fucking murder you and call you a man or some shit, okay? None of that fucking shit is going to work. You can't extend grace to these people. They are inherently intolerant and crude. They are not interested in grace. They are only interested in power. That's it. That is all that these motherfuckers are interested in. So if you extend grace to them, it's not gonna accomplish anything. And you're willing to hyper fixate and blame like annoying dumb fuck Twitter lefties for as to the main reason why the politics of grace has not done, like, is not going to work on bringing in the intolerable. That's complete fucking nonsense. And also, not pay attention to the fact that your party that you are representing, the Democrats, have fundamentally retreated on a lot of these civil rights issues. Why is immigration as big of a deal as it is? Because Joe Biden is a racist dumbass who fucking decided to keep in a lot of Trump's immigration fucking policies and completely conceded the issue to the Republicans. Same with trans rights. Same with those fucking civil liberties. Joe Biden is a stupid fucking dumbass who, you know, there's a reason why he eulogized and was a big fan of Strom fucking Thurmond, because he's a fucking racist and a bigot. Whoa, crazy. You know, fantastic, excellent. Why he fucking eulogized like fucking Strom Thurmond, quite literally at his fucking funeral. It's because he decided to concede on these issues to the Republicans and not fight back at all. And so, whoa, because the only ones who were putting out any messages on these issues were the fucking Republicans, and the Democrats themselves were offering no fight on them. It's perfectly natural that, hey, in terms of those issues, polling was going to naturally slip and be pulled towards the right because Democrats were offering no fundamental fight against it at all and are willing to capitulate and throw trans people on the bus in order to scapegoat for the fact that they are incredibly inadequate and unprepared and fundamentally incapable as a party. That is the problem. But, you know, actually it's because of, like, Twitter lefties or something. It's complete fucking nonsense. I don't think there's really much else to say besides, feckless fucking neoliberalism is not the solution to the problem, or honestly, not even neoliberal. Feckless fucking conservatism is not going to be the solution to any of these problems. It is radicalism, strength, power, and showing that enough is enough. Fuck all this stupid bullshit. It's time for the arc of progress and history to continue moving forward like it always has for time immemorium. None of this fucking namby-pambly status fucking quo bullshit. Fuck out of here with any of that nonsense.